empty chairs. What are they? Well, yeah, but what about in movies? In movies, an empty chair can pose a variety of questions like, why is it empty? Who has sat there? Could somebody sit there? All very exciting. An empty chair can have boundless cinematic possibilities, like the song in Les Mis, Empty Chairs at Empty Tables, representing how all of Eddie Redmayne's friends are dead. The ending of F9,
It's still an empty chair.
teasing that another character is still yet to come. The Friends episode, the one where Eddie moves in, where it expresses longing for a friend who used to sit next to you. But there are two major examples that I want to focus on in today's video. Two movies where the empty chairs play massively important parts. Two movies that could not be further away from each other. The 2005 British children's movie Nanny McPhee and an American Western from 1952, High Noon. Nanny McPhee tells the story of a family with 7 children and a widowed father played by Colin Firth. He doesn't have time for his children and so they are all acting out. He cannot hire any more nannies because no one wants to be with the children until a magical nanny, Nanny McPhee, played by Emma Thompson, arrives at their door. She's essentially like Mary Poppins but with a bit more tough love. I mean, she almost kills the kids the first time they meet. As Nanny McPhee is teaching the children 5 lessons, Colin Firth is desperately looking for a wife, because the stuck-up but wealthy Aunt Adelaide, who financially supports him, is threatening to stop the allowance unless he remarries. Okay, that's all well and good, sounds like a nice fairy tale type children's movie, but what does that have to do with empty chairs, you ask? Well,
we must begin our story, sad to say, with an empty chair. If it were not empty, we would not have a story. But it is. And we do. And it is time to tell it.
So, safe to say that the empty chair is kind of important. Colin Firth's character has not moved on from his wife's passing. The wife is represented by the chair she used to sit in. He is constantly in the same room with it, talking to it and hoping it will guide him towards the right choices. When Firth is talking with the chair, it's shot and edited as if it was a dialogue scene between two characters instead of a monologue, even though Firth is the only one talking. The chair is used greatly when Firth is about to ask a terrible woman to marry him. First, he tries to stop her from sitting in the chair, but she does it anyway. Firth begrudgingly lets her, but the kids do not. They are rejecting her as a potential new mother, so they are trying to drive her away from the chair with spiders, cello, and so forth. Though this is especially clear when they try to stop her from sitting down in the chair in the first place with an arrow. When Firth finally does ask her to marry him, it is in the room with the chair, but the scene is framed in a way that we cannot actually see the chair at all. Basically telling us that the character of the wife, the chair, is not part of this decision at all, even though maybe she should be. A few scenes later, Firth is contemplating if he made the right choice with his hands resting on his wife's chair. He did not talk with her about this decision and he is regretting it, even though he knows it must be done. Later at the end of the film, as Firth decides to marry someone else much better suited for him, he doesn't talk with the chair about that decision either. But as we see the chair, in what is essentially a reaction shot to all of this, the movie is telling us that she approves of this union. Firth's wife may not be here anymore, but all she wants is for him to be happy and the children to be taken care of, and she knows that Firth is finally making the right choice. The chair is used as a surrogate to Colin Firth's deceased wife, but even though it is just an inanimate object, it is still shot as if it was a character on its own right. We never see a ghost of the dead wife or anything like that, but we feel her spirit throughout the film, and that is all done with the chair that is empty. Also, Nanny McPhee bows to the chair, kind of like acknowledging the spirit of the wife, so maybe Colin Firth is just seeing ghosts, and Nanny McPhee is also able to see those ghosts, and everybody's just going crazy, but, you know, that's probably not the point of the film, so. But enough about fairy tales and magic nannies and ghosts. Let's talk about
The noonday train will bring Frank Miller.
High Noon is about a small town sheriff played by Gary Cooper who gets married. As he's about to leave town and retire, he hears about a dangerous criminal who he sent to prison has been released and is arriving on the noon train. Cooper has just given up his badge, but the new sheriff is not set to arrive until tomorrow. Feeling his duty to the town he's lived in for so long, he decides to stay to protect it, even though he doesn't have to anymore. This all sounds like a relatively basic Western film setup, but High Noon is less interested in the usual trappings of the Western movie genre and more at the moral quarrel at the heart of the film. For most of its runtime, which happens in real time, Cooper is just going around town trying to recruit deputies to help him fight off the impending threat of the criminal and his gang. One after another, everybody comes up with reasons not to help him, and even questions Cooper for staying in town in the first place, as the criminal only wants him. Surely he would leave us alone if you weren't around. The film rides high with the interesting moral dilemmas and character study of a whole town, exploring how different people may feel against major threats, and how nobody wants to be the one to sacrifice themselves, only daring to do it if the odds are surely stacked in their favor. But how can we, as the audience, feel this oncoming threat? We haven't seen anything that the gang has done, only heard some vague talk about it, and sure, the movie starts with the gang arriving to town and all the townspeople are scared of them, but that's all pretty basic stuff. Luckily, High Noon has another trick up its sleeve. Can you guess what it is? I really hope that you can, because, well, that's the whole point of this video. An empty chair. But not just any empty chair, maybe the scariest empty chair of all time.
You'll never hang me, I'll come back. I'll kill you, Will King. I swear it, I'll kill you.
The empty chair in High Noon is the exact opposite as the empty chair in Nanny McPhee. Here, the empty chair represents the villain of the story, the person who is coming to town with the sole purpose of killing off our main protagonist. Until the climax of the film, when the train finally arrives, we do not see this criminal. We see the gang, we see the train station and the train tracks, and we see the townspeople worried, but we do not see him. We only see the empty chair where he sat as he received his sentence all those years ago. The chair is only used 2 times in the whole film, but what High Noon lacks in empty chair action, it makes it up by its effectiveness. The film is mostly shot and presented in a very straightforward, objective way, but the chair is used very subjectively, with dramatic zoom-ins and music used to highlight just how terrifying the threat the person who once sat in that chair poses. And this is nowhere as clear as it is the second time the chair is used. As the clock ticks towards High Noon, Cooper is about to face the oncoming threat completely alone, yet he still feels the urge to stay and fight. He cannot just leave town, even though he knows that he is severely outnumbered. Music starts to build up as we see the worried faces of everyone in town that Cooper talked to. The people at the church, patrons of a bar, his wife who threatens to leave him if he stays to fight, the gang waiting for the train, everyone, even the empty streets of the town. The music is building to its highest point, the tension is palpable, until the climax of the score hits and we see it once again, the oncoming threat, the symbol of death, the empty chair. The train whistle blows to signify the criminal's arrival. The chair is not shown again, as now we can see the face of the criminal. So I'm not going to go over the climax of the film. Besides, I'd say that the true climax of the film was this build-up right here to the empty chair. I don't think I've ever seen an inanimate object used quite as effectively as it was used here in High Noon. It's used to such an incredible effect that it feels like a huge explosion in an action film or a jump scare in a horror film. For the purposes of this video, I rewatched that climactic scene multiple times, and it never failed to give me goosebumps. It's just an incredible piece of cinematic expression. In both movies, the empty chair is used as a surrogate to a person who is missing, but they are used very differently. In Nanny McPhee, the chair belongs to a deceased loved one, so the empty chair conveys longing and sadness, though there are moments of happiness with the chair as well, as it is a fully fledged character in its own right. In High Noon, the chair is the impending doom. It's the only visual we have of the villain of the story until he comes back to town at the end of the film, so it's shot and presented like a horror movie villain. An empty chair is such a great visual representation of somebody not being in a space that it feels quite uniquely cinematic. Sure, you could use an empty chair in a painting, for example, but the way you can use an empty chair in various different ways throughout the course of an entire film makes it fit the cinematic medium incredibly well. Do you have any other examples of empty chairs used in movies or TV shows? Or perhaps some other inanimate objects that have been used in clever ways to portray characters or emotions? I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And join me next time as I talk about sofas in movies that are only half full.